Hey everybody, it's Allison again, www.stlprostretch.com. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Today we're going to be talking about sciatic nerve pain. There are a number of different types of sciatic pain. True sciatica really does come from the spine, so it's compression somewhere in between like L4 and then S3, I think, somewhere in there. But I have a lot of clients that have been diagnosed with sciatica. And whether it's false sciatica or true sciatica, it doesn't matter. A lot of these stretches will help. So a lot of times people are told to stretch their hamstrings. The problem is if they're not instructed on like which hamstring to stretch, then they might not be really stretching the right hamstring. The sciatic nerve passes down through the glutes. It goes underneath the piriformis, so it fits in the little small space that goes through there. So if you have a tight piriformis, a lot of times that's what's causing the pinch on the nerve, and that can go all the way down through the hamstring. Typically, it doesn't really go a lot lower than that, and unless it is true sciatica. So it's good to know like which hamstring to stretch. And I would start with some foam rolling of your glutes. So oftentimes the people that have the sciatica will have some type of piriformis syndrome. Now, some people don't believe in piriformis syndrome, but I do because I've had it. And basically it's a tightening of the piriformis. Usually do like a tight hip flexor in the front or something, and there's some compensation happening. The glute medius and minimus and the piriformis all try to like, the abductors try to correct the problem of the hip coming forward. So I'm not going to talk about any more of that. We're going to talk about what stretches and what should I be trying to eliminate this sciatic pain. All right, so if you are a toe outer person, like if you walk duck feet a lot, it's typical with people that have sciatic pain. Then you're going to want to stretch out your glutes, and you're going to want to stretch out your lateral hamstring. That would be your biceps femoris. It is the only one that attaches to the outside, to the lateral tibia, or the outside of the knee. It's actually the fibula. But anyway, start with sitting on your foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, if you're tight enough, really any hard surface would do. I really love to get into the piriformis with those really hard medicine balls. I know, I'm a glutton for punishment, but it's convex, so it really does get into the glute. I would not recommend using a lacrosse ball or one of those yoga tune-up balls because it's just going to be like way too much pressure on the piriformis. But these foam rollers work really great, and you could even just try this on the floor. If you're tight enough, you're going to feel it. So I'm going to roll to one glute. I'm going to roll up and down on that glute. Now to get in deeper to my piriformis, I'm going to cross the glute that I'm sitting on, the leg that I'm on. I'm going to cross that ankle over to open things up and then get into that piriformis. If you have piriformis problems, you're probably going to feel this, and you're probably going to find a point where it's just almost unbearable to be on it. And if you can stand it, then sit on it for a little bit. And chances are, if you've got piriformis issues going on, your TFL is going to be tight. Your glute minimus medius are going to be tight. So I do have a video on some releases. I'll try to attach it to this one if I can. If I can't, I'll just mention it in the comments. But so you're going to roll up and down, and then, if you find a spot, sit on it. Roll all the way up and all the way down. And a lot of times the sciatic stuff and the piriformis stuff is one-sided. So it's usually one side is tight, the other side is not. So just switch sides. If you don't feel anything, or maybe you feel more, this is the side you need to be on. If you don't feel anything, this is not the side that you need to be on. Again, if you've got that leg crossed over, this is the glute that I'm sitting on, not the other way. And roll it out. spend some time, sit in front of the TV, look at your phone, do whatever, read a book, chat with your friends until you get this thing rolled out. That would be number one, my book that I would do. And then next, we're going to get into stretching the hamstrings. I mean, the sciatic nerve goes right underneath this biceps femoris. Stretching all the hamstrings helps, sure. But if you're already open and you do everything that you do is like open, like this, you're stretching your adductors and you're stretching your medial hamstring mostly. And so you're not getting where it needs to be stretched. You're not getting to that biceps femoris. So how do you stretch that muscle? First of all, I would do the glute extravaganza. I have done this stretch in many, many, many of my videos. I'm going to do the supine version first. Grab a blanket or something to put, a block to put underneath your head. I'm going to lie down. I have an entire video on glute stretches. I think I've got 2 of them. So I'm going to cross this left ankle over my right knee, lift both. I'm going to take my left hand through the hole that I've created around the back of my right thigh and interlace my fingers. Now I'm going to push my left ankle into my right thigh. So my left foot is pushing out. I'm going to do that to contract my glute muscles. And then I'm going to keep pushing, pushing, pushing until the whole upper body comes along for the ride. Keep pushing out, and then I'm going to pull back. But I'm going to keep pushing out with that foot the whole time. Push, and then keep pushing, and use your upper body as a counterweight. So there's your resistance, and then pull into the chest. Push and pull. If you want to get into that piriformis more, after about 8 reps or so, maybe even more, maybe 12, pushing and pulling, you're going to grab hold of the bottom of the foot with the hand. Wrap my fingers around the outside of the foot. I'm going to push out with the foot, and then I'm going to guide the foot as I'm pulling back with the arm, guide it over to the right. Kind of mentally push this left hip down away from my head. You should be getting into piriformis land. Should feel good. Or maybe I'm just going to kind of move back and forth. And then after I do that stretch, then I'm going to get into this lateral hamstring. My favorite way to get into the lateral hamstring is supine. It's not for everyone. It's kind of a reach. So if you need a strap for any of these, grab your strap and I'll show you what to do. So you're going to take the strap around the foot and use it like this. So I'm going to be dragging the foot across the body because we want to get to this outer hamstring. The only way we're going to be able to get to it is if we go across the body. Opening up to the side is not going to get you there. So if you want to stretch your biceps femoris, you have to get across the body. It doesn't matter if you're externally rotated with the foot or if you're internally rotated with the foot. You're still going to hit it. You might hit one way more than the other, so we'll try both. But my favorite way is just to grab the foot with the hand. So I'm going to lift my chest and I'm going to hold the outside of the foot with my hand. I'm going to imagine my heel kicking down toward the outside of my hip. So I'm kicking down with the foot. While I'm kicking down, I'm going to pull the leg across the body to the opposite side. I'm still kicking down with my heel, by the way, until I feel a stretch. And then we'll come back again. So as I cross the body, if you want to intensify it again, take the right knee and tilt it in. And you should feel this all the way on the outside of the leg, all the way down to the ankle. So, there you go. That's your lateral hamstring stretch. this is the basic one. If you want to try it, straight leg, you can. Again, we want to do about 8 to 12 reps of this. And how much resistance you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you kick down toward your outer hip a lot, you can kick down so hard that it just really makes it hard to get across the body. You might feel like you're getting more out of it, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Both work. And even if you wanted to do a passive stretch with that leg, you could grab your strap and just a passive stretch. I've got my leg straight, but you could bend the knee if you want. This is fine too. Whichever is easier on your back. You're going to take the leg across the body, and you can turn the toe in. That increases the stretch for me. It might not for you. Or you can turn the toe out. Of course, I like to work with resistance, so I'm always going to be kicking out and then dragging across. As you get to the end, you might want to bend and rotate in. That might give you more stretch too. So any way that you can get to this outer hamstring. There are some ideas standing that you could use. But we're going to go through the other side first. So now I'm going to cross my right ankle over the left thigh. Take your right hand through the hole. Grab the back of the left thigh. Push the right foot out. So I'm pushing. I'm going to keep pushing out and pull back with the arms. I probably won't get to 8 to 12 reps, but I'll try to get to 8, 6 at least. Pushing and pulling. So I'm pushing. My upper body. This is not an abdominal crunch. I'm just literally just dragging my upper body, and now I'm going to let my upper body win and pull it back into the chest. Play around with this one. You know, rolling to the outside of the hip, rolling to the opposite hip. See if it changes anything. Often it does. So you should feel that lateral hamstring being stretched, and your central hamstring a little bit too, because it kind of catches all this. Why we call it the glute extravaganza. It catches the glute and the hamstrings. It's a multi-purpose stretch. All right, and then the piriformis kick out with the foot. I'm holding it with the hand. I'm kind of dorsiflexing my foot, so I'm pulling the toes back toward the shin, and then I take the foot across the body for that piriformis stretch. And then just kind of drop that right hip away from the head. And then we're going to move on to the lateral hamstring. So I'm going to lift my chest. I'm going to grab hold of the outside of the foot, kick down toward the outer hip, and then drag it across the body. Oh, I'm tight there today because I went running the other day. So you runners, this is a good one for runners too, because a lot of times, you know, this hamstring sits right along the IT band. So if you are experiencing chronic IT band pain, I would definitely start incorporating this stretch. Remember, as you bring it across the body to the left shoulder, to the opposite side, if you tilt this knee in, you're going to get more stretch. See, I'm not even straightening my leg because I'm getting this fascial stretch all the way down to my heel. So, Kihara, we are doing fascial stretching. Fascia being like the sort of the coating, the outer bag that the muscle sits in. It surrounds pretty much everything in the body. And I like to think of it as like the muscle fibers, the muscle is being like the juice of an orange, and like the fascia being like the pulpy part, the part that makes the segments of the orange. It's holding everything together. But, you know, the muscle is just inside there. But that's why we have different lines of the body that we need to either strengthen or stretch. And then we'll get into that in a minute. So for the straight leg one, I'm kicking out to the side. I'm going to bring it across the body. You may want to think about drawing your arch in toward the groin to shorten the inside of the leg, and then imagine the outside of the leg growing longer. So you can do this as a dynamic stretch, kicking down and then bringing it across. Or you can just hold it, and you can leave this leg straight as well. And you can do this also with the toes turned out. I'm bringing it across the body. Either way, you're going to get to that lateral hamstring. One might feel better than the other. Just make a mental note. For this one, I just say a lot of repetition because this is usually the tightest hamstring. It's the most used hamstring for sure. And this comes to the balancing muscle. So if you are one of those, I had a client once that was super open in the groin, could sit like this for days, super tight on everything on the outside. So what we did was we just worked on strengthening the groin. So we go to the groin exercise. If you think about it, as we come across the body, the groin muscles are getting shorter. So if we strengthen them, pull the knees together and push out with the arms, and think about this as less of a stretch and more of a strengthening movement, that would be the balancing muscle to the lateral hamstring. Sometimes when I am stretching my lateral hamstring and I bring it across the body like this, oh, by the way, you can do this sitting in a chair. So if it's just too much pressure on your abdomen, try it. You can slouch, I don't care. And I've got my heel kicking down toward the outer hip, and I'm going to bring it across the body like that. So that's another way to stretch it. If you experience a lot of pain or tension in your peroneals, this is another good stretch for peroneals because it's the entire fascia line. You're all kind of interconnected. The other stretches that I would do are pigeon, for sure. And in a way, pigeon, you're kind of getting your groin and your hip flexor and your lateral hamstring. What I wanted to mention was sometimes with the lateral hamstring stretch, I feel like I'm getting jammed up in the front of my hip. So a lot of times I will do, before I even get into my lateral hamstring, I will do a hip flexor stretch, just warming up that hip flexor, getting in there so that, and I have a billion videos on this stretch, of course, it's almost in every video, so that I can get this muscle kind of loosened up. And then when I bring the leg across the body, I don't feel this jamming sensation. It's like there's just bound up muscle in there. So that's me. Not everybody experiences that. It's something you want to look for. So another stretch, pigeon standing figure 4. Press the ankle into the thigh, push the hips back, keep pushing the ankle into the thigh and come up. That's another good one. We've got the standing tipping bird. So I'm standing on my right leg. This is to stretch the standing leg. Standing on my right leg, I'm going to kick my left leg back. I'm going to turn my toe in. And as my leg goes up, my chest comes down, and I am going to turn my shoulders. So as you can see or feel, you do that and you turn toward the wall. You should feel sensation in the outer hamstring. Touching the floor is not the object here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but that's another one. And then pigeon on the floor. So if your pigeon on the floor is tight, just roll a blanket and put it underneath your hips. So you're going to have one leg in front, just going to sit on the blanket. So this is another good stretch, and you're going to get into that groin and hip flexor in the back leg, and then the front leg is going to get the piriformis and lateral hamstring stretch. In some of my other videos with Pigeon, I have you do a pulse. I would highly recommend this for people that have the piriformis problems. Get yourself some blocks, set yourself up a little bit, make sure that you can pull in and out of this Pigeon, because you've got your whole entire body weight pushing down on you. So sometimes you can almost overstretch the piriformis. I don't want to say that there is such a thing as overstretching, but the piriformis doesn't like to be yanked. Let's just say, put it that way. It might feel good while you're in it, but if you have a lot of piriformis issues, I would say you come out of this and you're putting, just putting all this weight into it, and it's getting yanked, and then you get up and you start moving around, in about an hour it hurts more than it ever did. So try it. I would say try it with a little pulse in and out. I'm drawing my knees together, making sure that I can pull out of this pose as well as I can sink into it. This is also going to help you get deeper into your Pigeon, by the way. And then I kind of feel like, okay, I have business being here. But if I can't at least pull out of it in a couple inches, you're probably yanking the muscle and doing more harm than good. And then that can lead to SI problems, sacroiliac joint problems, and everything else. So those are it's my advice for sciatic nerve pain going down the leg. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. And any other ideas for videos that you have for me, I'd be happy to try to make them. Anyway, that's it for today. Happy stretching. Bye-bye.